to show leadership on these issues. The second problem is beating traffic congestion. Low-density urban development is placing a heavy reliance on private vehicle use, something made worse by a corresponding underinvestment in public transport. Urban car use has grown 30-fold since 1950. That's right, 30 times. BITRA estimates that the social cost of aggregate congestion in 2005 was some $9.4 billion, and they predict an 87% increase in that if action is not taken. These facts make cutting congestion not just a quality of life issue, but also something of huge relevance to national productivity. The third challenge is the affordability of our cities. All of us here, governments, professionals and developers alike, are sensitive to the cost of constructing and owning a home. But increasingly, the dollar amount for the land, bricks and mortar is only part of the price that we pay. The extra costs entailed in the running of 2 or more cars, heating and cooling badly designed housing and watering gardens are pushing up the cost of living. They are potentially burdening many Australian families with inefficient assets that may decline in value. This leads to a fourth challenge, the obvious unsustainability of the types of housing we are constructing. Despite a trend towards smaller households, in some states and territories up to 80% of new dwellings are single detached housing, largely on greenfield sites. The average number of people per household declined from 3.1 in 1976 to 2.6 in 2006, but the average number of bedrooms per dwellings rose from 2.7 to 3. The proportion of dwellings with 4+ bedrooms increased from 17% to 28%. We need to engage in a debate about the implications of these issues. In addition, housing and other building stock, whilst being built or upgraded to a higher level of environmental standard than in the past, comes nowhere close to the environmental performance of development in many other OECD countries. There are issues beyond the environment. We have an ageing population, and much of the housing isn't suited to the transition that will be required for an ageing population. So we have a mismatch between demographic trends and housing stock, a mismatch which is unsustainable, a mismatch which can't be imposed from the state, which does, however, have to be the subject of public debate and discourse, and forums such as this are a part of that. Just consider the latest generation of housing construction and renovation programs on TV, such as Grand Designs on the ABC. These programs establish the trends that the suburbs eventually follow. Almost every house on these shows feature energy efficiency and good use of space. All Australians should be able to benefit from better planning and design of this type. It's important in terms of the value of the assets. It's also important in terms of the quality of life for those who live in them. The fifth and last challenge is that of public health. Urban issues of poor air quality, heat stress, lack of quality green space and physical inactivity result in obesity, respiratory, mental and other public health problems. These are expected to be exacerbated by climate change and the growth of cities, especially car dependence and the resultant physical inactivity. On some of the less well-designed housing estates, it's probably not even possible these days to do anything practical like shopping or taking children to school on foot. The price we pay for this poor planning is high. The direct and indirect cost of obesity, for instance, is estimated around $21 billion annually, while the direct cost of physical inactivity is $377 million. We must act on this. So what's the problem here? It's not an inadequate understanding of the challenges. We have the experts, we have the data, we can see what's happening elsewhere. It's not a lack of public debate. The heat being generated by debate over the direction of our cities is melting polar ice caps as we speak. It's not a lack of great policy options or necessary technologies. In a broad sense, we know what we need to do. You yourselves will have many of the answers. Best practice stares us in the face every time that we travel abroad. In fact, Australia is one of the few OECD countries that has not had a national, spatial or geographically based framework within which national decisions are considered. Germany, for instance, has a strong national framework which recognises the impact of the flows of people, goods and resources between their highly connected urban systems. Not all solutions to traffic congestion require more lanes on roads or additional investment. Thinking smart can improve the way our cities work. We can use the broadband network to enable more people to work from home. It's been reported that British Telecom's implementation of video conferencing replaced nearly 1 million face-to-face meetings in a year, saved the company almost $500 million and was the equivalent of taking 18,000 cars off the road. In Sweden, an intelligent road system gives Stockholm's commuters enough information to reduce traffic congestion by 25% and carbon emissions by 40%. So we have the knowledge, the technology, the options, the willingness to debate them, and the means necessary to make a difference. We can't, of course, with a country of our size, with our population, simply translate solutions from Europe to Australia. We can, however, develop Australian solutions to what is an Australian challenge. All we lack is the right leadership from government and from business. Our disparate decision-making processes are producing suboptimal planning, land use and settlement patterns, and they are making insufficient use of the infrastructure investment available. Much is going on to improve planning at the Commonwealth level to make sure Australian cities remain places where people want to live, work, raise a family and do business. The establishment of Infrastructure Australia has been critical to addressing some of the big urban problems we face in partnership with the states, territories, local government and the private sector. COAG is also playing a lead role. COAG and competition policy reform are driving improvements in road, rail, port, education, health and broadband infrastructure provision. That's why national regulation is important if you're going to have national solutions to national challenges. Reform comes at a time of unprecedented investment in urban infrastructure, including an historic $4.6 billion commitment to public transport in the budget. One of the reasons why, as Mark will be able to tell you, the Regional Rail Express project in Victoria was successful in attaining the largest proportion of Commonwealth funding, was that it wasn't just about the rail line. It was connected with urban planning and the growth of Melbourne as a city. We're clearing the arteries of the nation with these reforms, but clogging up its heart when we neglect our cities. Some considerable advances are being made at the state and territory level. Queensland, for instance, has released its revised South East Queensland Regional Plan, which has set a framework for development in this region to 2031, a framework that includes transport, water, energy, a real plan for that region. And I congratulate the Queensland Government on its leadership in that area. Presently, approximately 90% of new homes in Sydney are being built within the existing urban footprint, the best result of any state in the Commonwealth. South Australia and Western Australia have both recently released policies for metropolitan growth, espousing the importance of concentrating jobs, services and high-density housing in nodes or activity centres connected by good public transport corridors. The City of Melbourne and the Victorian Government have a number of similar planning projects underway. The next necessity, though, is for a national policy framework that can build on best practice and accelerate successes like these. What we need is to overcome the lack of a consistent national policy focus. The Commonwealth's recent exile from the urban policy arena is over, and today is a part of that step. Hence our national urban policy, in the process of being formulated by the major cities